Today we're going to be covering everything Katarina. We're going to be exposing people's early lane mistakes. We're going to be exposing that mid-game macro. We're going to be exposing those team fighting errors. If you're interested in getting better at Katarina or looking to learn more about Katarina, this is the video for you. Let's go ahead and get into the details. Diving straight in, we have ourselves a Bronze 2 Katarina main. 38% win rate over 39 games, not off to the greatest start. If we go back and take a look at their past seasons here, we'll see if they've played it. Did they play Katarina? Yeah, okay, so they played it last split as well. So they're definitely a Katarina main, which is good to see. A genuine bronze Katarina main. You don't see them very often. First thing that really jumps out to me here, guys, is take a look at the kills. Very high kills, but very high deaths. 8.5 kills per game, 6.8 deaths per game. Now, this is not all doom and gloom, believe it or not. When I see very, Katarina mains, I like to see a bit of a messy OPGG. I want to see the Katarina limit testing, getting out there, having a crack, getting a little bit messy, because at the end of the day, your kit has no utility. So if you don't know your limits and you don't know what your kit is capable of doing, then you're not really going to climb anyway. So I would actually prefer, believe it or not, an OPGG like this rather than one that had like 3 kills per game and 2 deaths per game, because it means you're not really playing Katarina properly. So I'm not condoning the, 6.8 deaths per game, but it's not all doom and gloom. I think there's a lot to take away from that. As long as those deaths are high quality, and you're limit testing with intention, I think there's some things to take away from it. Now, today we're going to be covering this 12-8 Katarina versus Veigar game. Just quickly taking a look at the build. Look, not the most common build path. Typically nowadays you see a lot of Lichbane. You would see Lichbane into Shadow Flame, or maybe even Lichbane into Nash's as a second item. You very rarely see Nash's as a first item. So it's not terrible, but it's not something you see as frequently. It is good to see that this Katarina seems to be specializing for the most part in Conqueror Katarina, which I do like to see. I like to see a main that really specializes in a particular setup. Outside of that, let's get into the details. Speaking quite transparently, I don't work with a ton of bronze Katarina players. I would say more often than not, most of the Katarina players I work with are gold plus or platinum plus. So I don't really know what a definitive bronze Katarina main looks like. So I think I'm going to learn a thing or two here today. I don't really know what the hell we're getting into. Now, just quickly taking a look at the compositions. If you're a Katarina main watching this, you'll look at your composition and think, holy moly, this is going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of divers. Volibear is going to be diving in. Nocturne's going to be diving in. Samira's going to be diving in. So when you're paired with a lot of other divers, it makes your mid-game skirmishing, team fighting a hell of a lot easier, which is obviously great for ease of execution, especially on bronze. So not too bad. And we're versing Veigar. Now, Veigar's a pretty straightforward matchup for Katarina. Why? Because you can Shumpo over the baby cage. Not overly high threat for us. So it should be a relatively straightforward lane. And we're also versing a relatively low threat jungler with that of Shyvana. So should be a pretty chill early game. Now, I don't know what we're going to see. I don't know what the quality of the trading is going to be like. So typically level 1, we're very weak. We want to chill. And something that we've been seeing in a lot of these bronze reviews is a lot of missing fundamentals. Resets have been abysmal, wave management has been abysmal, and even trading pattern matchup understanding has kind of been hit or miss. Some bronzes across the series so far have had some pretty okay trading, but then their wave management has been quite inconsistent. So what I'm going to be looking for here is what is this Katarina's trades like? With Conqueror, we can definitely trade from level 2 onwards. Level 3 probably makes it a little bit easier, but you definitely can trade a level 2. Wave's in a really good pocket here. Typically into a favorable matchup like that of Veigar, where they have very limited self-peel, having these sorts of wave states, whether on our side or even a neutral state, gives us a lot more flexibility as a Katarina to dive onto them. So we have the very archetypal trading pattern with the cube bouncing blade, try to get the Shumpo and then pop back. Bit of a questionable extended trade here, trading inside the wave, getting a little bit excited with the Conqueror. And look, this is a bit of a pretty terrible trade, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, obviously because we tanked the wave, but also look at that trade, how it influenced the next wave, because now we pulled the wave and look at where the wave's meeting, outside Veigar's tower, which is not what we want. We really want that room to take those extended trades with our Conqueror here. Now we do get a nice little short trade there, try to extend the trade a little bit more, so we even out the trade a little bit there, but again, we're so limited because of the wave state. And this is what we are seeing time and time again in these bronze reviews, is when the players are quite frequently misunderstanding how decisions that are made with your trading patterns or with your abilities can influence not only your trade then and there, but also your future trades off the back of poor wave management. And this is a great example of that, how that trade has completely ruined the wave. Now we are taking some good trades on the back end of this lane, but again, we're very, very limited because of the waves. We really need to let this wave come out and give us a little bit more breathing room here. Luckily, we are versing a low threat jungle, so we won't get punished as much from having this sort of wave state. But you can already tell if we were versing any jungle with high threat, we could easily just be dead by now. So we have burnt both of the pots of Vigar. This Vigar also has heal, which is worth noting, not something you typically see too often. And look at this. This is typically what I'd want to see. We have a little bit more room. So now if Vigar does go up to cage us, we can just shumpo over that cage and take a bit of an extended trade here. So let's take a look at this. So it looks like Shyvana comes with the gank. Vigar's trying to set it up with the E. We shumpo directly over. We drop the W. We Q. And we're able to kind of burn both summoners from the Vigar there, which is excellent. Really, really good. Okay, a little bit of an odd flash there. Maybe being generous with my analysis, maybe thinking that Shyvana had 6 or something so that she could jump over the wall. I don't know. Maybe she just doesn't know how Katarina's kit works. It's completely normal for in bronze. You don't really have a deep understanding of how all the kits work. So definitely some learning there for Katarina. A bit of an unnecessary flash, but we get the kill and we get the ball rolling. Bot lane not off to the greatest start. Already died total 4 times in the first 4 minutes 30. But does get a double kill on the back end. I don't know how the hell that happens. But okay, welcome to solo queue. Okay, so looks like we go for a bit of a shove into a reset here. Beautiful. Sitting on a decent amount of gold here. We can now work towards our first item. Now, in this case, this Katarina ended up going for Nash's first item, which is not terrible, but typically, again, I don't think it's as strong as the Lich Bane. Now, we're in a good spot here. We're approaching level 6. Vigar has no summoners. So quite honestly, because we're versing such a great matchup for Katarina and Vigar has limited self-peel, we could play for the 1v1. We could be trying to play for those solo kills into the Vigar here. So we're interested to see what Katarina does. Now, just based off my own coaching with some of the lower tiers, specifically gold Katarinas, you see Katarina, there's Katarina archetypes that really love to roam. They play for shove, rove, shove, move, shove, move, shove, move all throughout the lane, and they basically miss a ton of opportunities in the isolated 1v1. Conversely, you will see some Katarinas that are completely tunnel vision on the 1v1 and they don't roam at all. Typically, as you start to become more sophisticated with Katarina, you'll know what you can and can't do based off the matchup. Now, in this particular matchup, we actually have a lot of really good trading power, right? With the wave on our side, no sums Vigar, especially, getting off to such a great start like this, blasting one into a no pot Vigar, we could have just kept the wave on our side or kept the wave in a relatively neutral state and look for those aggressive shumpos directly onto Vigar's head and take great trades. But it doesn't look like this Katarina wants to do it, or maybe they don't know they can do it, whereby they're just defaulting to playing for the wave. So it's not like this is a bad thing to do for Katarina. I do like playing for the wave, especially in the later stages of the lane, but there is a little bit of missed opportunities here. And I would have liked to see maybe Katarina leverage on those no summoners from the Vigar, but it is what it is. It looks like they're maybe potentially a roam-oriented Katarina. Now, if we take a look at the quality of the roam, there is volatility. We see heavy trading. We see the wave in a very pushed up, aggressive location, which typically means a very high percentage roam. So we go for the shove and move, and I don't mind this. Quite honestly, this is a very high percentage roam, and we know it's a high percentage roam because of the wave stating and again, because of the volatility. So if you are a Katarina player and you want to lean into being, playing for the map more, we are looking for those two variables. Where is the wave? How pushed up are they? And also how much heavy trading and chaos is going on in that lane. So thumbs up to this Katarina. Nice little roam there. And we get a beautiful little kill. We're already 2-0 by 7 minutes, rock and rolling. So now we don't have our ultimate anymore. So we really just want to slow down here. Maybe even try to get a shove into a reset and spend some gold. We're in a bit of a power trough here, in my opinion. I don't know if I fully agree with trading onto the Vigar at this stage. I think we should be trying to slow down and probably play for a reset here, given we have no ultimate, but we'll see what happens. Okay, we can start to see some of the beautiful trades Katarina can take into the Vigar because Vigar has that limited self-peel and struggles to land that baby cage. Want to be careful by taking too many of those Qs. One thing I do see a lot of people, a mistake I frequently see with not just Katarina players, but everyone into Vigar is they get clipped by too many of those Qs. Vigar's Qs can really add up over the course of the lane. They do quite a lot of damage. So it looks like Nocturne ulti's bot. Unfortunately, they don't get any kills, but it looks like they burn some summoners. Vigar's now disappeared, so we decide to hard shove the wave. Thumbs up, really good choice. This would be a great reset angle. We're sitting on 1,300 gold here, yet we decide to go for the tower. We have no information on the Shyvana. Bob's your uncle, there's Shyvana. Guys, if you are a melee hitting the tower with no flash, chances are there's probably something else you could be doing, right? I mean, he was sitting on a lot of gold. We had no vision. We could have easily got a recall synced up with our jungler after having them made that bot play. You know, look, if you're going to hit the tower, guys, especially as a melee, you better have a pretty darn good reason to do it because, you know, you're very, very vulnerable. And especially the Katarina had no flash. We're basically just a sitting duck, right? So not an overly sophisticated play there from that Katarina. So at this stage of the lane, as you start to get level 8, level 9, we can basically start shoving these waves and shoving and moving. We can see Katarina's trying to go for these extended trades down the long lane. Not an overly great play from Katarina here because this Vigar did a really good job of spacing us and avoiding those daggers. Look at that, staying well away from the daggers. We're not able to kind of get the resets over and get on top of them early enough. And now, you know, before you know it, we're basically under the tower and we're really struggling with these trades. At this stage of the lane, I'd really want to see Katarina just popping those waves, not even getting too concerned with the Vigar, not interacting, shove, hover, shove, hover, shove, hover. Because at this stage, we have really good wave clear. We have plenty of AP, right? We have our Q basically, you know, borderline maxed out here. We can really start basically one-shotting these waves here. So we go for a bit of an all-in. We trade our ultimate and ignite for both sums and end up burning our flash as well to avoid that W before. Not amazing. I mean, look, it's okay. I mean, trading R for both sums is okay. But again, if you're snowballing as a Katarina, I wouldn't really be content or satisfied trading R and my ignite for just both sums. I feel like I'd want more than that. So if we take a look at the execution of this all-in very quickly, it's very forced. I mean, we Shumpo directly onto the minion. I would have liked to see, let the Vigar walk out a little bit and see if we can get the direct Shumpo onto the Vigar. And quite honestly, if we actually got the direct Shumpo onto the Vigar, we would have killed the Vigar there. So a little bit of a rushed play, very unnecessary. We don't know where the Shyvana is and how the hell can we posture up this aggressively, guys? And we're already seeing these decisions that are quite hit or miss. I mean, if we were versing a higher threat jungler or a jungler that was more active on the map, we probably would have died to a bunch of ganks by now, quite honestly. So this time we don't hit the tower, which is good, and we get a nice little recall. Beautiful. Okay, so we're still not yet on our Nashes. We're in a little bit, I wouldn't say a crazy power trough, but again, we're level 9 with our Q maxed out. We have plenty of wave clear. We can just shove and move. We don't need to interact with the Vigar at this stage of the lane. Typically, that's one of the reference points I would follow as a Katarina. At this stage, we just pop in these waves, Q, E, W, Shumpo again, lovely, and then we can just hover. And so the two things we're looking for, you may ask, well, where do we hover? What's the side of the map our jungler's on, but also where's the volatility? Where's the heavy trading? We're not going top, they're full HP. Bot is where all the heavy trading was. I love that hover from Katarina. Very, very, very good. Nice little short trade. Well done. Vigar uses R for lane control. That's fine. I mean, we do get chunked, but we're Katarina. We can shove and reset whenever we want. We can move into the river, maybe get a fruit. I don't mind. I don't mind that, to be honest. Okay, we are quite low here. We are sitting on quite a bit of gold, so we definitely have our item in base. So I'd really like to see a bit of a recall here from Katarina. You know, the bot play has already been made. The bot lane is resetting. This would be a beautiful opportunity to sync up with our team. Because remember, guys, as a Katarina, we're not designed at this stage of the lane to solo kill your lane opponent. That's not what our champion does. At this stage of the lane, our goal is to shove and hover and be there for skirmishes with our team. We want to be complementing our jungler. We want to be in there in those river fights, 3v3s, 2v2s, 4v4s. We want to be there for all that chaos. We don't want to be ditching waves like this. We don't want to be running around the map on a quarter HP. This is not our champ's identity. And especially when we have no sums and this amount of golden base, we're really, really overcomplicating the game. This is not what we need to do. Keep it neat and tidy, catch those waves, stay nice and healthy, and attend those major skirmishes. Please tell me they reset. Okay, lovely. Okay, so now at this stage, we got our Nashes. We're approaching level 11. I mean, you've got great skirmishing. Our bot lane is really stabilized. I mean, really what I'd want to be seeing from Katarina here is just shove, hover, shove, hover, shove, hover, and keep our options open to complement either our bot lane with a heavy trading or complement our jungler here. Again, I really wouldn't be too tunnel vision on the Vigar unless he overextends down the long lane. Now, if he gives us this opportunity, if he walks up and allows us to shampoo on top of him down the long lane, great, go for it. But again, this is more on Vigar and less on us. And great little execution. Really good. Great punish. Something to understand about Katarina as well, guys, is that Katarina lanes, both on playing Katarina and on the receiving end of Katarina, are very dynamic because how a lane plays out will massively depend on the quality of the Katarina player, but also the caliber of the enemy's tethering and spacing of the Shampoo. Certain laners are going to be very, very good at spacing the Shampoo of Katarina. Other laners are not going to know where the damage comes from, and they're going to get chased down the long lane and die. So it really depends on the quality of the lane opponent, quite honestly. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we're doing a very good job now. We're snowballing. We're 3-1. I mean, the real question is, how did this guy go from 3-1 to 12-8? Right? That's the real question here. That's the question we're going to try and solve here, or try and answer. So yeah, bot lane is really doing a great job now. They're starting to snowball. At this stage of the lane, like I was mentioning before, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we don't need to be engaging with the Vigar. Vigar's just going to keep us at a distance. We just need to be popping these waves, staying nice and healthy, and complementing our jungler here. Very good. I like the reset. Beautifully synced up with our jungler. Very good. Very nice. We've got one item on Nocturne. We've got our Nashes. We're on level 11. We've got Rift Herald spawning on top side. We've got very good 3v3 on top side. Katarina, Nocturne, Volibear, really good skirmishing. Bot lane have got their tower, so lane assignments are going to get swapped up relatively soon here. Unfortunately, we do get chunked pretty hardcore. Okay, bit of a questionable all-in from Nocturne. Okay. I don't mind the shove and move here. I really want to see her complement the Nocturne and the Volibear. So here we go. We have first move. This is our champ's identity. Or no R. There's no CC for us to be scared about. I want to see the EW, Q. Pretty good. Bit overkill on the chase, but I don't mind the initial engage. Great. Should be able to clean up the Vigar. Beautiful. So I actually really like this. I think this was great execution. I mean, we probably could have got there a little bit sooner, but quite honestly, I think the target selection's fine. We EW, QR. I think that was actually really great execution. The only thing that I don't like is the chase onto the Shyvana, given she's quite tanky, but with the Shojins, but not too bad. And now we're killing it. We're 4-1. How the hell do we go from 4-1 to 12-8? Someone please tell me that. So lane assignments ideally should be swapping up soon with Samira getting in mid lane. We're sitting on 900 or so gold. Dragon is the next major neutral objective. So our reference point, tying it back to Katarina reference points. We want to be there and adaptable for major team fights and skirmishes and neutral objectives, be as healthy as possible, and, be synced up with our team. Katarina is a champion that is all about understanding what your team is doing. It's less about what you're doing into the enemy. It's all about syncing up with your team, being there for major skirmishes. So Katarina is spam pinging assistance on the Dragon, which I do like to see. We are deploying on the right side of the map. The next neutral objective is Dragon. Here we go. Our team is moving in. Our Nocturne's on this side of the map. This is go time. We love this as a Katarina. We got multi-threat. People are burning their CC. Vigar cage down. Nocturne going in. Good little hover. Really, really good. Vigar's dead. What I'd want to be seeing now, given Samira's dead, we could just shove out mid and get mid tower while they're dead. But looks like we decided to help the jungler. This, by the way, is not Katarina related. I do see this as a problem. Mid lane is helping their team do dragons when they don't need help. They've already got the dragon. Use this time where your Nocturne is able to finish off that dragon to shove out sides or shove out mid or get a reset or do something else. So it looks like we find a wild Seraphine. Beautiful. We'll take that pick. We're sitting on 800 gold here and we're 5-1. We're snowballing beautifully. Turn it into a mid tower as well. Beautiful. Good, good, good. So now, again, all we got to do is fight with our team. We don't want to be doing anything fancy. We don't want to be diving into the backline by ourselves. We just need to be simplifying it and overemphasizing our teammates' location here. Nocturne does not have R, and now we're going in by ourselves. Where is the multi-threat, guys? Where is the multi-threat? If we're looking at this from the enemy's perspective, we're making the enemy's life as easy as possible. Look at this. We're literally diving in by ourselves. Where's the follow-up? Samira's in Narnia. Nocturne doesn't have ultimate. All the enemy got to do now is just focus their damage on the quarter HP Katarina. This is just a classic example of just overcomplicating it. And the tough pill to swallow, guys, the best play to make here is to not make a play. It's literally to go grab the blue buff, go back bot, shove it out, reset, spend your gold, and just get ready for the next major team fight. And not only are we going for this play on a quarter HP, we're going for this play on 1,400 gold. Remember, the theme that we're seeing in all these bronze, emerald, the bronze and emerald games is it's not about the plays you make, it's about the plays you don't make. So I want to fast forward a little bit here. Let's get into the weeds. So we're at 22 minutes here. We've got Adicon is up. Dragon is also coming up. We're sitting on 2 items. Our team has got very, very good skirmishing. So really what I want to be looking for here from the Katarina is their ability to now skirmish. When they are at those key skirmishes, what is the execution of the skirmishes like? So, we want to be ideally timing our engage with everyone else. When Nocturne's diving in, when Volibear's diving in, when Samira's diving in, we want to be creating and leveraging that multi-threat. So I like the positioning. I like how we're in the area around the next major neutral objective. From a macro perspective, I think this is really, really good. This is right up Katarina's alley. Okay. Good. So it doesn't look like anyone can do the Adicon here. Everyone's shitting themselves. No one wants to be the one that starts it, which is completely understandable. We do have Flash as well, which gives us a lot of flexibility with the way we can play this fight. We've got to be very careful of the Seraphine and the Ornn CC here. I like the positioning, sitting off to the side here. Great engage. Really, really, really good engage. Let's take a look at this. So we can't go in too early because then we're going to get CC'd from the Seraphine, right? We're going to get one shot because we don't have Seekers. So Seraphine E down. We flash and Shumpo over the Seraphine R directly, with our team, and we leverage that multi-threat into a beautiful team fight. Well done. Really, really, really impressive. I mean, quite honestly, I wasn't expecting that caliber of team fighting. Now, I don't know how intentional that timing of the Shumpo was over the Seraphine R. I don't know, but that was incredibly good. And this is totally aligned with our champ's identity. We're leveraging our sums, our flash for those major pivotal team fights to get over and deal with the hard CC. We're fighting and engaging with our team, and we positioned in a way kind of coming in from the side to make sure we're not just getting, CC'd in that front to back, and we're able to clean up beautifully. Look at that, 9 and 3. Also, we don't even help with the dragon. We shove out mid, and if we reset here, please tell me we reset. Please tell me we reset. I mean, we reset, but in a very sketchy location here. What did I say? I mean, and guys, at the end of the day, look at where the vision is. Obviously, this is all going to be lit up because that was the last neutral objective. That's where the scenario was. You can kind of use common sense. If that's where all the fighting was, typically that's going to be lit up here. So look, you can see this Katarina actually has some pretty good fighting. When they're at those key fights, their execution is not bad. So I'm just going to fast forward a little bit here. We're getting into the weeds in the mid game. So this is where typically games get very, very chaotic. And the way you kind of, I guess, operate in these sorts of games is, again, it's not about going to every single play. It's just about being there for those major fights. So if I'm Katarina coming out of base here, I'm thinking about 2 things. I'm thinking about what threatens me. What are the key abilities that I need to be careful of? I guess the baby cage, Seraphine ER. That's really it. I guess everything else is relatively straightforward. The Viger and the Seraphine are the only 2 major threats. And then I'm also thinking about where is my team and where is the next fight going to happen? So Baron seems to be up. Adicon is up. And what is my team doing? My team's nowhere near, so I probably want to be a little bit careful here. Constantly recalibrating. Where is my team? What is my team doing here? So this would be a play that you wouldn't want to make. Why is this a play we wouldn't want to make? Let's freeze frame right now for a second, guys. Volibear on top side hasn't shoved out yet, and our Nocturne's in base. So according to the theory of what we've been covering so far, this would be a bad play to make. Any play here would be bad. So here we go. We're going for the ARAM. The Avengers arrive. And we're dead. Time and time again, guys, we're seeing this overforcing of plays. We're seeing the inability to identify when is it a green light and when is it a red light. To give him props to Nathan Mott, his the jungle coach. He's got this red light, green light kind of framework. This is a red light because our team is not in location and they're not here to back us up. A green light would be if our Nocturne was right behind us and our Volibear was right in the area and we could all dive in together. As we can see, we're diving in kind of one by one. We're at a massive man disadvantage and the Avengers arrive, and that's why this fight doesn't work out. So fast forwarding, we'll see if we can look over maybe one last sequence here. It seems to me it's pretty abundantly clear what the strengths and weaknesses of this Katarina are. I mean, I don't mind this. We are with our Nocturne here, and we kind of saw the Shyvana on the top side of the map. It just looks like we get a little bit caught off guard by the CC here. So we'll take a look at this. Surprised we didn't just disengage there with the Shumpo. So just a little bit of maybe threat assessment problems there into the Seraphine. So we'll fast forward. So we got the Dragon here. We'll see if there's maybe one last team fight. It looks like the rest of this game from this point is relatively straightforward. I mean, their comp is just absolute god mode. They all kind of go forwards. Seraphine's caught off guard. Beautiful, good multi-threat. Any fight like this where we're fighting with the team is going to be pretty straightforward. Continuation of this is great. Again, it's in accordance with our champ's identity. We got everyone diving in. Here we go. Samira's diving in. Next target, next target, next target. We also have Zhonya's here, I think. Next target. Beautiful. Probably could have peeled back onto the Shyvana there instead of diving under the tower. Doesn't look like Katarina had actually had access to the Zhonya's. But yeah, maybe a little bit overkill, but I respect it. I mean, again, at least we are fighting with our team and we're generating some sort of multi-threat. I just think the dive was probably a little bit overkill. If we had Zhonya's, maybe. But I think peeling back onto Shyvana probably would have made a little bit more sense. So what we're seeing here with this bronze Katarina is that fighting is okay. Mechanically, it doesn't really seem they have problems. Sure, maybe there's some threat assessment problems and priming the mental stack of who can kill them. But I would say their biggest problem is two things. Their early lane wave management. I would say they're probably also playing for, I say three things. They're also probably playing for shove and move a little bit too early when they actually already had kill threat on the Fireguard. And number three, it seems to me they weren't putting enough emphasis on their teammates' locations and kind of picking engage angles when there is no multi-threat, hence why we're giving those bounties. So this Katarina has the potential to really climb if they can allocate a little bit more attention to their teammates' location. Let's move on to take a look at an Emerald Katarina. So moving on to the second Katarina player. This is an Emerald 3 cat main, been Emerald for quite a long time, Platinum and Emerald for quite a long time. They're currently sitting at a 54% win rate over 93 games, so decent sample size. We can see that death's still very high, very similar to the previous OPGG with the bronze Katarina, still high deaths and high kills. Again, not something that's massively out of the ordinary. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Maybe we can tighten up those deaths a little bit, but definitely shows that the Katarina is definitely getting in the action and not dicking around. Today, we're going to be taking a look here at this Katarina versus Zed game. Now, just from a quick build path, a little bit of insight into the build path. We've opted in for the Lichbane into Nash's, which is a little bit more of a stock standard build path. We're seeing a lot of Lichbane nowadays with the secondary domination instead of, I think the last one went Resolve. I can't actually remember, but I think they went Second Wind in the last one. I think this is a little bit more of a stock standard setup. A lot of kill threat here, double adaptive, which is good to see. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's see where this Katarina's at. Now, I want to spend a little bit more time in this review getting into the skirmishing. Something that I didn't touch on maybe enough in that first one was how this Katarina was over-committing in fights. They were kind of getting that initial kill or that first kill or maybe burning the sums on the first person, but then they were over-committing and then dying on the back end. We saw it twice in the bronze review, but this one I want to put a little bit more attention on the trading and the skirmishing and really start to nitpick the quality of those fights. Now, we've opted in for Ignite, very similar to the previous one. Instead of the longsword side of the past VOD, we went for the Dark Seal in this one, which I think is a little bit, obviously makes a little bit more sense. We're versing a Zed with Conqueror and TP, and a relatively high threat jungle with that as in Zhao. Now, if we take a look at the comp holistically, though, again, tying back to what is Katarina like versus not like, we have got multi-threat dive a little bit. We've got a Zac on our team, which is obviously good. So Zac diving in and us diving in together will be nice. But we have a GP and a Caitlyn and a Zillion, which are typically not amazing for us as a Katarina because those are champions that like to sit back and make the enemy come to them. On the flip side, we're not versing a ton of hard CC. Mbessa, Zinzao, Zed, Jinx, and Swain, not a ton of hard CC. It's not that they have zero CC, but it's not a ton of point and click CC, which is very good for us. I mean, the only one we got to probably be cognizant of is the Zinzao. So let's take a look at this early lane here. Seems like a relatively straightforward matchup. Again, I think we have the advantage. We have a lot of mobility. I think it's quite easy for us to deal with Zed's WEQ combo due to the movement speed of the W and also the Shumpo mobility. And not to mention Zed doesn't have any hard CC, which makes it very easy for us, moving on in the later stages to just shove and move and do our thing. Now, we didn't get a level 1 ward, so we don't know Xin Zhao's early clear. We get that level 2 first. Go for a nice little short trade. Beautiful. Already you can see a lot more intention with the wave management. Hopefully that we can crash this second wave to get it bouncing back out. We don't really want the wave stuck on Zed's side here. Looks like Zed is trying to pull the wave or something. I don't know. Not lovely. The wave is going to crash. This is very, very good for us. This would have been a lovely ward window. Even just warding the Raptors would have told us a lot about Xin Zhao's first clear. Beautiful. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. So we got the third wave has now arrived. It's in a bit of an awkward location. I think we're doing an okay job. I mean, to be honest, Zed did a very, very good job of landing that WEQ. That was not an easy WEQ to land. So hopefully we can try and get this wave under. I would have liked to see a little bit more intention from the Katarina. What we could have done on this third wave here is we could have actually just last hit it and just be a little bit more conservative to make sure we don't AoE it too much, because you don't really want the wave stuck in this sort of location. Look, it's not terrible into a Zed, right? It's not like Zed's really going to punish us too much, but still, it's better than nothing. I think making sure we have a clean bounce, letting the wave come back out to neutral set a little bit, will probably give us a little bit more trade potential as well, to be honest. Okay, so we do get a ward out. This doesn't give us a ton of information about Xin Zhao's clear. We don't really know what he's done. Zed landing a lot of damage in these WEQs. We're getting nailed by both WEQs so far. Getting hit by both shurikens. Really struggling with the CS here because of the wave state. So Zed's really starting to put the hurt onto us here. And we've already burned both of our refills. And we're actually in a pretty bad position. We're actually going to get out sustained pretty hardcore with the D shield of the Z. And yeah, we're not in the greatest position at the moment. And I would argue that a lot of this is off the back of the wave management so far from the Katarina. We take a nice little short trade on the back end. Excellent. Very good. And you can already see the quality of the trades when the wave's in a bit of a neater location here. Zed get hits by the bouncing blade. We're doing a very good job of not overcommitting, by the way. I just want to compliment this Katarina. This Katarina doesn't have information about Xin Zhao's whereabouts. So even though Katarina could be actually extending some of these trades, they're being very neat and tidy. And you can kind of tell they're a little bit timid. They were contemplating Xin Zhao being in the area. And look at that. We spot Xin Zhao on the ward, and we're really kind of walking that tightrope here. So it's really good to see a little bit more of a disciplined Katarina in this early lane. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and definitively say this is a super disciplined Katarina this early on. We had no idea what we're going to be seeing moving into the mid game, but just so far, I'm glad to see that we're not seeing some crazy overcommits and being a little bit respectful of that Xin Zhao, considering he is an early threat. And it does have that early gank threat. So good. We don't have that TP. Looks like we commit for the base on the cannon. Very good. Looks like we get the blasting one. Beautiful. So it looks like bot lane doing okay, relatively even. Top lane chilling. Jungle's chilling. Pretty slow early game. Looks like Zed's come back as well. Zed's come back with a pickaxe. So we have a little bit of a resource advantage. We've got 2 pots in our back pocket, and Zed has nothing. So like I mentioned in the previous lane, a lot of lanes with Katarina are going to be very dynamic. It depends on what the enemy does. If they disrespect our bouncing blades like that, we might be able to look for short trades. But again, they may play very defensive, and they may not give us many trade windows. So we want to opportunistically look for those aggressive shumpos. If the Z gives them to us, if they don't, then that's okay. We can just play co-op versus AI. One thing I just want to be very critical of this Katarina is that whenever Zed has that WEQ, we're walking just very linearly, and we're getting hit by nearly every single one of these WEQs. We don't see any reactive Ws, which is a shame. We're not seeing reactive shumpos, and we're getting slowly chunked out. You can kind of see how Zed's trying to bait in the Katarina, but luckily we spot the Xin Zhao on the ward, so we're not falling for that bait, which is great to see. So it looks like Katarina has a kind of an idea of what trades we're looking for, but not doing the greatest job of avoiding Zed's damage. Okay, so Zed's missing. We don't really know what's going on. It is a cannon. He could have gone for an additional reset. It looks like Katarina's hypothesized that Zed's gone for a reset, so it looks like we're hopefully going to match the recall. We don't have a ton of gold, but I actually don't mind the reset because, this would give us an opportunity to replenish our refills. So it looks like we're contemplating moving topside, but I just don't really think there's a lot of volatility, and Bess is kind of full HP. So I respect it. I like how we don't over roam. Bot's already shoved in, so we can't go bot, and top doesn't really look very volatile, not to mention you don't really want to gank a GP lane, so we're kind of just chilling here. So it looks like we're hovering bot just in case Xin Zhao pops up, but then Xin Zhao pops up on top side. So I one thing I'm noticing already, and I feel confident enough to say that, you can tell this Katarina is not over forcing anything. They do seem relatively poised. They're not rushing roams. They're not running around the map like a headless chicken. They do seem relatively poised and patient, and they seem to be kind of content just scaling into that mid game. Okay, much better. We're using our abilities somewhat reactively there. I don't think we have to use Shumpo and our W. We could probably just use one of them, but that's okay. It looks like Zed has a little bit of control because he's come back and spent that gold and has a little bit of a resource advantage. Okay, lovely. That's that WEQ down. All right, so a bit of a slow early lane. I don't want to spend too much time here. It looks relatively straightforward. Zed's trying to bait us in. We know that if we take that, Zed's going to kill us because if we take that dagger, Zed's just going to R us and chase us with W and flash, and we're going to die. So really, really good. And it seems like we're respecting the bit of a power trough we have right now. We're respecting Zed at that pickaxe. So it wouldn't surprise me if we look for a bit of a reset soon. We don't want to stick in lane with very limited resources here. We're half HP with no pots. We could go for a fake recall. Glad to see that Katarina is looking for those reactive Ws. Zed's doing a very good job of holding the wave in neutral state. You can already see the difference in the quality of wave management. I love this all in from Zed, by the way. I think this is really smart. Zed knew here that there was no wave behind the Katarina. So there's actually nothing that Katarina can Shumpo onto backwards. She can only go forward. So Zed walks up, goes for the R and thinks, well, okay, well, if you go back to the wave, I've already got my clone there. And then if you go backwards, you have no minions. So you're going to have to, either burn flash, which is exactly what happened, or just die. So really, really nice play from the Zed. Really great understanding of the waves. And as a result, is able to kind of get a bit of a chunk here. But now we do know that Zed doesn't have access to R, which is worth noting. Okay, we get chunked with the WEQ. Zed gets a little bit crazy, and we disrespect. So just like that, I mean, quite honestly, I probably would have liked to see a little bit more respect from this WEQ across the entirety of the lane. And we even see here again, we get very specific. Zed's lining us up with a WEQ. We walk up. We're not utilizing our Shumpo reactively. We walk very linearly. We get hit by both daggers. We stay, next to the shadow, and we die. So, Katarina hasn't had the greatest early lane. I think maybe there's been some, disrespect from Zed's WEQ. And she looks like the type of player that is just probably a competent Katarina player, but is missing nuanced information about the matchup specifics. And quite honestly, we're getting kind of out-calibered from a fundamental and just matchup understanding perspective. So not off to the greatest start here. And if we free stream the game, it's looking pretty dire. Right, bot lane struggling in the 2v2, top lane struggling in the 1v1, jungle not off to the greatest start. Definitely not looking like the greatest game state. Okay, we don't have our ultimate here, so we're really struggling to deal with this Xin Zhao. We're trying to take the extended trade with our Conqueror. Very, very sketchy, and we die. Yeah, so look, I mean, again, this is a testament to, Katarina not knowing how threatening the Xin Zhao is, and it's a very strong Xin Zhao. Double component Xin Zhao. We only have the blasting one. We don't have our ultimate. Zillion doesn't really have much to offer. Our jungler's not in the area, and just like that, we die. And that's our second death. Not overly impressive. Remember, Katarina without ultimate, you're a shell of a champion. You do need to be very neat and tidy when you don't have that R available. So we're playing from behind. We're 13-3. I'm very intrigued to see how this game turns around. 14-3. So at this stage of the lane, we have no chance of dealing with this guy. He's got straight Eclipse. We're going to get straight up stat checked. There's not really too much we can do here. Luckily, we avoid that double shuriken. We actually get quite lucky there. I mean, if we take a look at this, we didn't even actually Shumpo reactively. Shumpo was actually down. Was it? No, he did have it. We could have shumpoed. Oh, there's not really anywhere to shumpo. If we go into there, we'd actually face check the queue. So there wasn't really many places to shumpo there, unfortunately. Yeah, so Zed's doing a really good job of just lane locking us here. We're down about 30 CS. We're really, really struggling, and we don't have the ability to beat this guy at this stage. We're just trying to hang on for dear life, keep popping these waves, and basically try and get to the point where we can start popping waves and play away from the lane, really, and play without Zach. Okay, so we're getting shoved in on repeat. We're probably going to have to just take the L and go down -6 here because of all these bad trades. And that, just like that, we're getting further and further behind. And if that at this stage, we're down a whopping 1,500 gold in the isolated 1v1, getting dominated. So already the advice I would give to this Katarina thus far is that they need to spend a little bit more time getting into the matchup nuance and understanding the interactions between kits. You can tell this Katarina has an idea of like, again, high level, what they want to do, but it's that when it comes down to the minutiae of the trading, they were really struggling to play around the WEQ, and got punished for that. So I don't mind the hover here. I think putting your body in the area is completely fine. Zed ends up going for the TP and getting a little bit chunked. We see a little bit of volatility here. We have our R. Swain overextends. Beautiful. Now, the reason I don't mind this is because we do have our ultimate. They don't have a ton of hard CC. And again, we've got the Zillion R behind us as well. So I don't mind that at all. We end up able to execute it and get a nice little kill. Okay, nice little reset window here. Looks like we're trying to defend the tower here. I don't know if I agree with this. Again, as a Katarina with no ultimate, sitting on, pre-Lichbane, I'm not a massive fan of it. We get extremely lucky. So let's take a look at the execution of this one here. So Jinx is mowing us down. We're trying to, I don't know what we're actually trying to achieve here. Maybe Caitlyn felt he needed to help the Caitlyn. I don't know. I mean, quite honestly, this was very, very, very lucky. I mean, so she has chompers. I mean, quite honestly, I think that if Jinx actually didn't flash forward and used her chompers, I think we were dead. I think that was just complete luck. I really don't like that play from Katarina. A very, very low percentage play. I mean, look, maybe she's panicking because the game's in such a bad state. She feels as though she needs to take risk. But in that regard, I wouldn't mind it. But I just think it's a very low percentage play. I think, chances are there's going to be better quality, opportunities with our Zach later on. Anyway, continuing on. We're still quite weak. We have a little bit more wave clear, but we're not yet at our Lichbane. We still have good skirmishing with our Zach. So what I want to be looking for here at this stage is popping those waves, looking to complement our Zach here, and be there for those kind of mid to bot skirmishes, playing away from the 0-5 GP to the best of our ability. Hovering between the waves here. I think you can hover, but as soon as the Jinx respects, you need to be getting back mid. It's obvious that if Jinx is not posturing up aggressively here, that you're highly likely sitting on a ward. We take the long way so we don't get cut off. Very good. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. So Zed's hitting the tower. We try to use our R for a little bit of lane control. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can see that the Katarina is probably panicking a little bit at this stage. I'm not a massive fan of it. Obviously, it's easy for me to say, right? I'm the one spectating, sitting here with a cup of coffee thinking, oh, yeah, you just got to relax. Well, at the end of the day, as we all know, being in this sort of a game state where everyone is losing and you don't really have a reliable secondary win condition, it's very stressful. In these sorts of decisions, I think this is where you need to factor in the emotional state of the game. I mean, we've all been there, being in this sort of scenario. You're losing the 1v1, your jungler's behind, your top lane is behind, your bot lane's dying on repeat. It's not exactly a comfortable position to be in. So yes, I can sit here, like a comfortable coach at my desk with a cup of coffee and say, shouldn't have hard there, but I can understand the psychology and that probably the mindset that this Katarina is in at this stage of the game. But if we are, again, put our logical cap on for a second, realistically, Zed having ultimate and everything, we're not going to be able to lock him down and take an extended trade. And our goal right now is to basically sit tight, relax, wait for the enemy to mess up, and then utilize our multi-threat with Zach, and try to look for those very opportunistic plays. Try to get to our Lichbane. Okay, so bot lane is starting to stabilize a little bit. They seem to be doing okay here. Zed is not roaming too much, which is benefiting us. It looks like we are going to lose our mid tower, which is definitely not fun. Okay, there goes our mid tower. Zed is missing. Bot lane is an incredibly volatile. We see Swain go for an extended fight. I don't see the volatility here. I mean, I guess since Zhao is low, we might be able to make something happen here. We do have Flash. Swain doesn't have the most reliable CC. Flash onto the Zinzao. Get that bounty. Was it a bounty onto Zinzao? I don't think there was a bounty. We just get a beautiful pick. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if we break down this and try to determine whether or not this was a high percentage or low percentage roam, what makes it okay, at least initially from a hovering perspective, is that these guys' mental stack is very overwhelmed on the Zillion. So sometimes in the heat of battle, when shit's going down, you can sometimes pick up these very opportunistic, kills. So I don't mind the hover. I don't know if I would have committed, overcommitted here, considering the body language of the Zinzao. But again, considering Swain was pretty overextended, Swain didn't have ultimate, we're in a pretty shit game state. I don't mind it. I think it's completely okay to look for lower percentage plays now at this stage of the game, considering how brutal the game is. All right, so we are now level 11. It looks like we have our Lichbane and base. We've now completed our item. Caitlyn is actually surprisingly strong. Caitlyn has completed IE and Collector. So the question here at this stage would be, okay, well, what should our mentality be like as a Katarina? You've got no reliably fed, multi-threat champion. I mean, Zach's, still in a bit of a power trough. We can't really deal with anyone in the isolated 1v1. So honestly, this is a challenging game for Katarina. And it really is going to be one of those very patient and poised games where we've got to be very, very opportunistic and wait for those windows. So waiting for people to overextend, waiting for split targets, waiting for people to kind of get cocky. And Katarina is one of those champions that can, turn the game on a dime with one good quality team fight. All right, so the lane summons are swapped up. Caitlyn is rock and rolling, getting another giant bounty onto the Zed, which actually gives us a really great opportunity to shove this wave out deep here. So if we know Zed is dead, we have free reign on the tower. It's highly unlikely we're going to be able to fight that Rift Hold on top side. So I like that we're not moving. And I actually love how we're not overcomplicating this. We're just using it as a farm window to capitalize on the fact that Zed is dead. I love this. Really, really good. This is going to get us some gold, and we got a nice little tower bounty here as well. Very nice. A lot of Katarinas would have shoved and moved to try and make a play there, but we don't really want to make a play at this stage of the game because realistically, we don't want to fight into this Mbessa who's on 2 items with a GP with not even on Triforce yet. It wouldn't really make sense for us to force a play. Let's just use it as an opportunity. It's a farm. And, any opportunity where we're getting free farm is really, really, really valuable. So I love this play. Great play from a macro perspective. Really good. Beautiful little recall, sitting on 1,000 gold, 1,100 gold here, working towards our second item, working towards that Nash's. Excellent. So now we've made Jinx react on bot, and Bess is going in by herself here. This looks like a potential opportunity to rack up a little bit of a free kill. This is what we're looking for. These very opportunistic, these opportunistic plays. Unfortunately, don't get the kill on Mbessa, but we know they're split. Jinx is on bot. We have a little bit of a potential man advantage here. I mean, if they overcommit, Zillion has R. We could look for something here. Zach's in the area. I mean, this is the sort of play you're looking for. We're looking for these very kind of, again, opportunistic man advantage plays. So I don't mind the hover, and there's no rush for us to move back bot. So here we go. Zed goes in. Really, really good. Good patience. Really good patience. I love this play. I really, really love this play. I love how Katarina is sticking around, putting her neck out, understanding that there's no reason to go bot immediately. The wave's not really in a position for us to farm yet. Top wave's still shoving out. Swain is split. Jinx is split. This is our one unique opportunity to look for a bit of an all-in. And again, I love the placement of the R, splitting the Mbessa and the Zed. Really good. And some people may look at this and think, isn't this just luck? Like, aren't you just hoping? Isn't this whole kind of hoping for the enemy to mess up just luck? And yeah, I would agree. I don't know how you're going to win this game. It really is, again, quite opportunistic, but at the end of the day, welcome to solo queue. People are going to make mistakes. People aren't going to play perfect. I mean, this Mbessa is playing cocky. This Zed is playing cocky, and it's our duty to punish them. That's why these players are at this rank. If they were super disciplined and translating their leagues perfectly, they wouldn't be at this elo bracket in the first place. So it's our duty to really capitalize on that. And we're suffering the consequences for our early game mistakes. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. So Okay, so let's just get into the macro here. So what we need to be doing as a Katarina is trading off neutral objectives for more farm. We don't need to contest this next dragon. Slow down the game. We've got good scaling with GP, Zach. We've got good team fighting in that mid to late game. So if we can slow down this game, maybe even trade off a dragon or two, and try and get ourselves to 2 items and try and get our play around our team on 2 to 3 items, we have a fighting chance for sure. So I would have actually really liked to see Katarina move top this entire time, trade off that dragon, shove it all the way out, and actually trade that dragon for a tier 2 top side. Obviously, we'll need to be a little bit careful of overcommitting top because Atakan's also coming up in 30 seconds. But I don't like this siege on mid. I don't like this. We're split from the team. We're not going to be able to, I think, fight for the dragon anyway. I think, and it's too early for Atakan. So I would have been a great opportunity to gather some more resources, similar to what we did before with getting that bot tier 1. But I do like the counter siege down mid rather than moving to the dragon. That is good. Better than randomly A-ramming here. We are sitting on 1,200 gold. We know Zed is split. Okay, glad to see we didn't compensate. They used a hell of a lot of cooldowns there. Get the hell out of here. There's no way we're going to be able to win this team fight. Disengage, disengage, disengage. By the way, one thing I will note about this whole sequence is we're actually influencing with our body language. By us being in the area and A-ramming like this, we're actually sending a signal to our team that we want to fight here. So, you may blame this on the Caitlyn and the Zillion for moving up, but at the end of the day, you're the one hovering around in the area. You're kind of telling your team via your body language that you want a fight to happen here, right? How the hell are we going to win a team fight here? It's not going to happen. Swain's on 2 item. You've got, 2 item Zed. Realistically, Zach was out of position. It's very, very, very unlikely we're going to be able to make a play happen there. So now, what just went from trading Dragon off, we may even have to trade off the Atakan as well here. A little bit of disrespect into the Swain, and then we die. So very disappointing. That sequence is, in my opinion, a pretty disastrous play, and we're going to lose a lot of that. Luckily, the enemy are kind of wasting their time sieging the tier 3, which is the cardinal sin of solo queue. Sieging tier 3s nearly always ends up in tiers. So I'm not a massive fan of this. And this is where, you can a lot of the time turn games around. Because what the hell are we doing? Look at this Mbessa. What is Mbessa doing? Mbessa is diving the Nexus towers. This is completely unnecessary. Imagine guys, if after this team fight, they actually just went straight to Atakan. Or just cleared jungle camps, reset, then go back out on the map. They're really overcomplicating the game. And this is an Emerald in a nutshell. We're seeing a lack of discipline. There's a reason why people are at this elo bracket, and it is lack of discipline. As a Katarina, we can really punish this. Now, if they overstay here, we're coming up in 10 seconds. We might be able to make something happen. And realistically, the enemy didn't do Atakan, so we can stall out the game a little bit longer. And again, we have a second chance of maybe preventing them from doing Atakan. So realistically, if I'm a Katarina in this game, I'm feeling, simultaneously, obviously, I don't really know how I'm going to win the game outside of just playing around my 3-item Caitlyn and maybe peeling for my Caitlyn and using my Caitlyn and Zillion as kind of cannon fodder to follow up on the people that are diving onto them. But also, I would feel relatively confident in the fact that, the enemy are not playing clean League of Legends. They're over diving. They're doing a lot of dumb shit. So chances are you might be able to, turn the game around. So here we go. We see the enemy on the Atakan. Very, very good. We know Zed is dead. We got good multi-threat with the Zac here. I mean, I respect it. Their resistances are going to be shredded. Let's just take a look at the execution here. So we got resistances shredded from the Atakan. So this Xin Zhao is going to be quite squishy. We got Zac diving in. We have our flash. We have our level 2 ultimate. Let's take a look at the execution. Okay. So the positive of the way we played it, this Swain was quite isolated, and it is very difficult to burst the Xin Zhao here, so I respect not going on to the Xin Zhao. Also, we would probably get one shot from the Jinx. So I actually think the way we played it was relatively poised and patient. Waiting for our team to come in, get the cleanup, and just like that, look at that. I mean, I think this actually showed a lot of restraint. I think a lot of Katarinas probably would have dived onto the Xin Zhao, and I think that wouldn't have ended up overly well, and Xin Zhao probably could have played for the knock-up and interrupted us anyway. But because we play it slower, Caitlyn's able to pick up, come up on the back end, and then Zac was able to create a lot of space. We're able to kind of rack up a few kills. And again, this is all off the back of the enemy overcommitting and overextending and ruining their tempo, kind of sieging for those tier 2s, our Nexus towers. So, yeah, we're really reaping the rewards of that lack of discipline here. And now, welcome to solo queue. Shit's hitting the fan. The enemy are going in one by one. And just all of a sudden, the game is turned on its head. Katarina has picked up a few kills. We've got a few bounties between them and Zach. The game is now stabilized. And now we're actually even gold with the Zed. And just like that, we're in a much better position. And now with this 3-item Caitlyn that's pumping out a lot of damage, we can probably, out skirmish if we position really quite well. And now we're at 2.5 items. So coming out of base, our team go for the tier 2. It is what it is. Looks like our team also overcommitted on the back end. We might be able to complement our Zach here. Beautiful. Jinx is relatively out of position. Beautiful. Really good. Just picking up some split targets here. Great job kiting it out. We've got to get the hell out of here. Very nice. Very well done. So at this stage of the game, I mean, really, it's pretty straightforward. We just got to fight with our Caitlyn. So what I'm going to be looking for is how do they play around Caitlyn in this next fight? And it seems like potentially Baron is going to be the next major neutral objective. Maybe Dragon. Caitlyn's coming back out on the map. GP is slowly ramping up. We've got Xin Zhao on mid. I mean, the enemy are just going in one by one. And to be honest, this Mbessa is kind of griefing the game, running in kind of by herself. And, we're really able to capitalize on that. So I love the hover around mid here, just in case they look for something on the Caitlyn. We can put our body in the area. We are sitting on a decent amount of gold. If we sell our Darkseer, we could probably get Seekers. I don't know if I would agree with that, though. So I think chilling here and getting a little bit more gold makes sense. Dragon seems to be the next major neutral objective. Zach going in. Can't quite get the kill, but that's okay. We burned the Xin Zhao before the Dragon, which was really, really good. Get the hell out of here. We don't want to siege tier 3. Great little reset. Dragon is up. Beeline straight to the Dragon. Beautiful. And now all of a sudden, we're basically even with an incredibly fed Caitlyn in our back pocket. So as long as we try to not go in by ourselves and we're playing in accordance to our teammates' location, we should be able to out-skirmish because they don't have a ton of reliable hard CC as long as we're not going in too early and get knocked up by the Xin Zhao. So you can see how Katarina is gravitating toward this Caitlyn. I don't know why Caitlyn is bot. This is just a fundamentally terrible lane assignment. But Caitlyn's doing a good job of adapting to the chaos. And look, if I'm going to get nitpicky, I would have liked to see, ping assistance topside and really try to make an effort to swap the lane assignments. But at the same time, Katarina is a pretty significant win condition. So putting our body in the area and making sure this Caitlyn is protected is quite good. And we end up burning the flash of the Mbessa. So we don't really want anything to happen here. I'd be trying to get my team away from this. Mbessa goes in. We are kind of overcomplicating this one. So let's take a look at the execution. I will just say before we even get into the execution, we are kind of influencing with our body language. Like I think the initial hover is fine, but I think the moment this guy starts recalling, we should actually move back mid because we don't want a fight to happen here. Like we don't want a 2v1 or some sort of 2v2 to happen here. And again, the positive is that you're kind of fighting around your win condition. The negative is that you're maintaining this terrible lane assignment, which will make the mid game a little bit harder than it needs to be. Imagine if GP were bot, Caitlyn was mid, and we're just playing mid to top here. It would be a hell of a lot easier, right? So sometimes by just walking away, pinging back, and trying to influence through your body language can go a very long way. Now, if we take a look at the execution here, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the Krugs. I think that's, again, baiting your team in. And Mbessa goes in. It's really hard for us to go in here because Xin Zhao has that knock-up, knocks us away with the R. We don't really Zhonya's in time. And now we have to try and waste a little bit of time here. So, yeah, really quite difficult. And Xin Zhao is making our life a little bit tricky. And as you can see, when we're not diving in with the Zac and the Xin Zhao's mental Zac isn't overwhelmed with other people, we will get annihilated. So Baron is the next major neutral objective. We may be able to get here in time. We'll see. Probably not, though. Zac's trying to screw with the enemy. We do not have TP. Zac ends up stealing it. Very miraculous. Well played. We got one last team fight here. Zillion dead. Zillion didn't use ultimate for some reason. Here we go. Cleanup crew time. This is Katarina's dream scenario. We get exhausted. We have our Zhonya's, buy time for the Caitlyn, great execution, peel back. pretty straightforward. And it looks like we end up shoving down and potentially ending the game off this one. So, look, I'll be honest, I wanted to spend a little bit more time getting into the team fighting this game. This just ended up not really being a game that really required overly sophisticated skirmishing. This was a game that really revolved around capitalizing on enemy mistakes and just basically being there for when the enemy had overextended or messed up their tempo or tried to make, a play by themselves. So this one's an interesting one. It's hard to really compare this with the other one. But what I would say, number one, there was definitely a lack of matchup understanding. They were getting hit by way too many WEQs, and you can tell that their fighting was okay for the most part. There was just a lack of attention to detail, whether it was ulting onto the Zinzal around the Krugs, whether it was getting hit by those WEQs around, the lane phase, or wasting the ultimate onto that Zed. There were like these moments, or whether it was we thought you could kill the Swain in some of these instances. There were kind of these moments where we didn't fully understand how our kid interacted with other champions, and we were getting caught off guard by that. I think also we could have made more of a concerted effort to probably inject a little bit more structure moving into our mid game with our lane assignments. Again, though, in a very chaotic game like this, it is easier said than done. I will say, though, there wasn't any crazy low percentage roams. They for the most part, kept their cool. They didn't do crazy shit. And to be honest, a lot of their deaths came from just genuine lapses or gaps in knowledge. It didn't come from, it seemed to me, like overcomplicating or overforcing plays. And it did show an element of just staying in there, capitalizing on those opportunistic plays and getting it done. And with all it took was just a few good quality fights, especially around the Atakan over here, for the game to turn around. And I think this is a testament to how Katarina can win very difficult games. The hardest part about winning games like this as a Katarina is just mentally staying focused and staying engaged. But again, I think there was a little bit of an increase as well in the awareness of teammates' locations, which definitely did make her life a little bit easier. So we'll move on. I'm hoping that we see some more attention to detail in our next review and also some better quality matchup understanding. So for the Challenger Katarina, we're taking a look at this NA Challenger cat main named Principal. I don't even know who this is. He just looks like a pretty stock standard Challenger Katarina main. 228 games is split, 56% win rate, rock and rolling. Now again, look at the OPGG guys. Like I was mentioning before, it's not problematic to have relatively high deaths and high kills. That is naturally embedded in the Katarina journey. And we're seeing this from a Challenger Katarina player. So again, I think this is, case in point, with my initial comments on the Bronze and even Emerald OPGGs, this is kind of a natural part of the Katarina journey. Now, what we're going to be taking a look at here is a Katarina versus Yone. Now, this Yone is not just any Yone. He's actually a resident MLA coach. AJ, he's actually probably one of the best Yones in NA, in my opinion. So I have not seen this game. I don't know what the hell we're going to see. I might be exposing AJ here accidentally. So I apologize, AJ, in advance if we see some of your mistakes. So let's go ahead and take a look at the details. So moving on to the Rift here, we have ourselves the Katarina versus Yone. We've opted in for the TP instead of the Ignite, which is completely reasonable into a Yone. A composite Yone, we're probably not going to kill. They're going to go D-shield. They're going to minimize. And TP will give us not only that early game resetting power, but mid-game flexibility. And we also know that we've got a jungler that's probably not going to give us the most early threat with the Nudia. So it's probably going to be more of an isolated 1v1 lane, or at least that's what I would anticipate. Now, just taking a look at the compositions, we don't have the most multi-threat. I mean, you got people creating space with the Mundo and Udyr, but it's not really much dive. The only other dive we have is the Pyke, which is obviously helpful, but not a ton, by itself. The enemy have quite a bit of CC. Nico has CC, Zach has CC, Rakan has a shit ton of CC, borderline point and click. So definitely even Ziggs has knockups. This is not an easy game from a Katarina perspective. So we need to be very particular and surgical with our kind of our engages and make sure we're super, super on point about when we're engaging, when we're kind of being that secondary engage. We don't really need to go for a level 1 ward. We already have a ward on the blue buff, so we should be able to spot out Zach's early clear here. So let's talk about the Yone matchup. So look, Yone is a champion that has a lot of tools, right? A lot of displacement. You have the Q3 mobility, you have the E mobility. So there's a lot of ways that Yone can kind of play around the bouncing blade and just overall the stickiness of Katarina. So I would say there is an element of skill to this matchup, right? It depends on or how I would say how confident, how competent the Yone is. If Yone ends up wasting abilities on the wave, wasting Q3s, wasting Ws, wasting Es, then Katarina probably is going to have a lot of trading windows. But if the Yone is neat and tidy, holding those Q3s for threat, not wasting Es, getting good value, timing the Ws with the daggers and not getting chunked out, this actually seems like a matchup that Yone could quite easily kind of minimize and win nice little short trades. So I would say this is a very dynamic matchup, like many of Katarina matchups. It depends on the quality of the lane opponent that you're versing here. So you can see already, notice how Yone's not wasting Q3s, really holding it and just milking it for threat. Because if Yone goes for that Q3, we can Shumpo over it or Shumpo around it, and it can, Yone can get into a lot of trouble. So we know Zach's path just from the fact that the blue buff was warded. Looks like Pyke's going for a bit of an early move here. I don't really think anything can happen with this size of the wave. And yeah, as you can see already, we haven't injected any unnecessary chaos. We've been very neat and tidy. And something that we saw in both the Emerald and the Bronze review is some very questionable trades and specifically wave management. So I'm hoping to see a little bit more nuance, attention to detail, matchup understanding, which was not really present inside the Emerald or Bronze review. Very normal to go down an early farm as a Katarina. You don't have the most sophisticated early laning, so just relax, chill. A lot of the time with Katarina, you're going to make up for that in later stages by just shoving and moving when you hit your wave clear breakpoint, which is, level 8, level 9, roughly around there. So we're chilling. Nice little short trade there. Yone does a very good job of holding that Q3 and extending the trade on the back end and getting a lot of value from that W. Now we know Yone's E and W is down, so it wouldn't surprise me if Katarina tries to look for a bit of a trade window here. Yone does have very long cooldowns. Here we go. We try to trade on the back end. Zach does a beautiful hover. So you can see how there's a bit of mind games here. It looks like Yone here was trying to bait in for the Zach. And even though, Yone didn't have E and W, was trying to bait in the Katarina. That's why Yone went in with the Q3. So this is the thing when we're reviewing these challenger games. It's not only, it's not just about the 1v1. It's about how the junglers are getting involved. And already junglers are way more involved in the mid lane, which is typically something you don't see up until, high emeralds, diamond plus. That's when junglers start to get more competent ganking around mid. So we try to bait in the Yone here, walking that tightrope beautifully with the Shumpo there. Let's just quickly take a look at that. So you can see how Udyr hovering here. Katarina really wants to kind of keep this guy interested. Shumpo's in, auto W, utilizing the movement speed to kite out. Really great awareness of the movement speed of the E, so keeps distance and doesn't even have to burn flash. Really great understanding of the amount of threat that Yone has onto us. We're able to burn that passive here. Trying to clean it up. Yone is trying to waste our time, burn that flash as well. Not bad at all. You can see that there is a much better understanding of the champ specifics here. And to be honest, trading 1-for-1 as a Katarina really benefits us. And not to mention the waves coming into Yone, so we're going to deny that wave as well. Really, really good. Really, really impressive. And one thing I just want to highlight here is the attention to detail. Katarina knows that you want to keep the Yone, in combat here, but you don't just want to just start auto attacking the Yone, because if Yone is on top of us and chases us with the E, we're gonna die. So she really keeps distance, utilizes and leverages that W movement speed to keep that distance and kite it out. So just some nice little skirmishing there from the Katarina. Switches targets, holds the Q to get the Q on the back end in the right direction. Really, really nice. Okay, so they both TP back. We've now got our blasting wands, and this is where the lane can go many different ways. It again depends on how the Yone plays it. I think that I would say Katarina slightly has the edge here. If assuming that the wave's in an okay position. If the wave's stuck in a bad position, then it can get a little bit sketchy. It's all about playing around cooldowns. Yone has high cooldowns, so assuming Yone has E and Q3, it can be quite tricky. Beautiful timing of the Shumpo when Yone Q3'd in. We're able to stack up our Conqueror. Very, very nice. E onto the minions to prevent that extended trade. Tries to go for horizontal movement. Yone does a beautiful trade on the back end. So it's interesting. These trades are very complicated, right? Because what you've got on one element is that both of these champions want extended trades, but only want extended trades when the cooldowns work for them. So here's a great example. Shumpo's over the Q3, goes for a really, really nice short trade, but then lands the Q. So he's able to kind of keep the Conqueror stacks up. She gets the Shumpo into the onto the dagger and instantly gets 12 stacks. But now that all of our abilities are on cooldown, Yone's thinking, well, I've got lethal tempo. I can also take the extended trade, stacks up the Q off the wave, and is able to land the Q3 on the back end and take that extended trade there. So you can kind of see that there is a much more sophisticated element of matchup understanding here. Both of these players are really, walking that tightrope and trying to min-max those trades. And if Katarina had avoided that Q3 on the back end from Yone, that would have been a very, very successful trade here. Now, the challenge that Katarina is going to face here is what happens when we don't have vision of Zac, and especially when, I mean, in this case, we do have flash though, so it's not too bad. But like I was saying before, what is he going to do about the Zac? So it does shampoo out. The wave's in the area. Luckily, we don't have to burn our flash. So if we kind of take a look at this whole instance here, look, if I'm looking at this from Katarina's perspective, I probably would have liked to see some more poise and patience here. I don't know if I fully agree with this AoEing of the wave and even the bouncing blade in the first place. This sort of wave state does not benefit us as a Katarina. It just makes us really overextended. I like this dropping of the dagger here to kind of take that short trade and then pop back. I think that was really quite smart. And looking for those, those kind of non-committal poke trades with the W, Q, and then shampoo back to the W is very smart. So catch the wave onto tower. We definitely need to be getting a reset relatively soon, sitting on a decent amount of gold. Yone is going to be getting 6 off the one more minion here. I wonder if we're going to be going for the fake recall. So it looks like Yone's lane locking us. I would have liked to see Katarina commit to that base on the cannon. Personally, I don't think sitting in lane with limited resource like this really benefits us. Ooh. We get very, very lucky there. There's no way we should be getting hit by that Q3 there. I mean, you can see the intention, drops the dagger, uses the Q, but we just mis-execute. Looks like we didn't expect the Q3 from that direction, and we end up getting clipped by the Q3 there. Quite unacceptable. Okay, looks like we're going to have to take that L. Yona's hard shoving us in. We're not okay with losing this farm, and I just really fundamentally disagree with what Katarina's doing here. You know, in my opinion, I would much prefer her just take the L, go down a few CS, not the end of the world, get back on the map, stay nice and healthy, such that we have adaptability to these river skirmishes. So again, looks like we're sticking around, and we get punished for it. So let's just take a look at this. This greedy bloody Katarina here. What the hell happened there? So we cancelled our base. Yone was stacking up Q on the wave. Yone goes for a very non-committal EQ3. And looks like she just shampoos into the Q and just dies. So yeah, I mean, bit of an execution. I would have honestly expected better from this Katarina. So very, very greedy. You know, Katarina needed to suck it up, go down 4 or 5 CS, not the end of the world, and come back. So now we're really going to suffer the consequences. We're now down 600 gold, and Yone's in a pretty good position here. So we are up in tempo. We have a little bit of a roam window here if we really want it. I don't think there's any kill threat top. Window is not there, and it looks like bot is basing. So there's not really too much we can do with our tempo here, unfortunately. So this is probably just going to be a bit of a ward window. So we shove the wave out. We end up going for plates. I would have preferred that the Katarina get a deep ward on the Raptors here and spot out the Zac or something. I think that would have made a little bit more sense. Or even shadow the Udyr. What are we doing here, right? This is probably the worst decision you can make. Hover the top side, or again, get a deep ward. Getting one auto attack off in the tower is just not worth it. We should have been anticipating that Yone is going to be back anytime soon. And quite honestly, we're in a bit of a hole here. You know, look, ultimately, Yone is still not overly spiked, and he's also in a bit of a hole. But I would argue that now that we're 20 CS down and we're about, you know, at least nearly about a level of XP down, we're in a bit of a hole, and we kind of got to just chill now. So typically by this stage of the lane, a lot of competent Katarinas are just going to do this. They're just going to pop waves and then shump her out. And this is what we didn't see in the other Katarina VODs, where they would get to this point where they have good wave clear. They have the double component working towards their first item, whether it be, you know, Fiendish Codex Blasting Wand or, you know, the the Wisp and the Blasting Wand, and they weren't leveraging that wave clear. And this is what makes Katarina at the higher elo brackets very annoying to deal with, because it doesn't matter how far ahead you are. Once Katarina gets to this point where you can just start popping waves, it gets very, very frustrating. And you can't prevent Katarina from just shoving the waves and moving. Incredibly good play from Nico. We get caught off guard by the Nico turning into a minion. We end up having to burn flash here, but we burn the Yone R. So luckily we survive, but it does cost our flash. Well played to the Nico. Okay, Shumpo back to the minions. AJ is doing a very good job of kind of keeping us pinned to lane, and yeah, he's actually doing a very good job. So the one positive we have this game as a Katarina is we have a 3-0 Pike that's going to be roaming around the map and causing a lot of havoc, which is very good for us as a Katarina. And because Pike was hovering, Yone had to respect, and this is going to give us a nice little reset window here. Very greedy reset window. This is something I've been quite disappointed with this Katarina. I think the quality of their resets definitely could be tightened up a little bit here. So maybe didn't want to commit to it. Maybe wanted to do a fake recall to bait Yone to hard of the wave in. Hard to say. Hard for me to know what this Katarina was thinking. So when we take a look at this game state, it looks like very much a mid to bot. I think this Pyke's doing a very good job. I think Window's struggling quite a lot on top side. So, really playing around this Pyke, mid to bot, skirmishing with our Varus Pyke. We have very good fighting, I think is probably the way to go. Pyke coming through again. We still have our TP available here. We're choosing to not base on the cannon, maybe because Pyke's hovering. I'm not 100% sure. Or maybe Katarina wants enough gold to base on the Lich Bane. Hard to say. So we're just kind of chilling. And Katarina is a very good champion at minimizing, especially into these low range matchups. We have, all the wave clear in the world to kind of minimize. Okay, this is all fine. Hopefully we base in TP. Lovely. We end up getting our Lich Bane. Excellent. So it looks like he was just trying to stay in lane all the way to Lich Bane. So now that we have our Lich Bane, we have a lot more skirmishing power. We got Dragon coming up soon. Our bot lane's taking some very good trades. Varus and this Pyke are doing a very good job. Zach showing on that top side. So we might be able to look for a shove and move bot side here or just secure the Dragon. We'll see what happens. We can actually win trades into the Yone now as well. I don't think this Yone has actually spent gold. And even if he did, even if he came back with an additional pickaxe or a recurve, we're going to win. We've spiked earlier on the Lich Bane. Okay, lovely. Use our R for lane control, and we just get the one shot. Very sloppy from AJ here, and very well played from the Katarina, playing off our key spikes. We beautifully placed that Q. We're able to get that Shumpo. Hold our W beautifully. EWR. Pretty straightforward. Well played. Great execution. And what I really like about this is that, this Katarina didn't force anything when she was in that power trough. And although maybe her resets could have been tightened up a little bit, she stayed resolute, she stayed poised, she stayed patient, got to her Lich Bane and was able to capitalize on that power spike. Really, really good to see. And especially just nowadays, the change in the build path of Lich Bane and the strength of Lich Bane at the moment, I think that Katarina is in a pretty good position. She's one of the few champions that can really kind of leverage that Lich Bane spike quite well. Same as Echo, I guess. So we get a little bit spicy here. Looks like we get a little bit cocky and end up sticking around for the tower. Very similar to the bronze Katarina, getting a little bit greedy for the tower plate. At the end of the day, an argument could be made to this reset and then redeploy back on the map, synced up with the bot lane. This would have been a completely reasonable reset, especially with Dragon coming back up. But maybe the Katarina felt as though it's not enough gold to base on. He's quite healthy. And again, he didn't feel as though that Zach actually had the threat. I think that this was a classic example of not really factoring in the enemy support roam window and only tunnel visioning on the Zach. So a little bit of a lapse in focus or just, not the right information gathered in that lull state, and we end up getting punished for it on the back end. So, a little bit sloppy there from the Katarina. So at this stage of the game, though, when I look at this game, all we really got to do is just continue to play around our Pyke, play around our Varus, and if we can continue to play mid to bot, I think we've got a lot of great skirmishing power. Okay, so Pyke comes mid. Yone's getting ganked. This is incredibly sloppy from AJ here. It's not his time to pressure at this stage in time. If we look at the map from his point of view, he's walking up and hitting the tower with absolutely no information on the enemy's whereabouts, getting absolutely exposed here. I'm going to have a tough chat with AJ. This is just disgraceful. So, AJ, you brought it on yourself, mate. So, getting back onto the map, looks like we're covering bot here, which is completely fine. We know Dragon is that next major neutral objective. We've now got level 9, which is great, so we can just start popping these waves and shoving and moving. We're not really at the stage right now where we need to play for any isolated 1v1. We can just shove and move and be there for those major skirmishes. So it looks like we've actually kept the swap lane assignment, which we don't mind because, getting your AD carry and support in mid is quite good. They try to go for some sneaky play. We get chunked. That's okay. Now, we do not have TP here, so looks like we're just kind of just chilling in the 1v2. And Katarina is actually quite good at minimizing in the 1v2 because of how good our wave clear is. And, looks like our team is able to kind of win the skirmish on the top side. if I'm going to be a little bit nitpicky, I would have liked to see after clearing this wave, instantly hovering mid here, rather than just twiddling your thumbs under tower here, because the next wave is so far away. So shadowing mid would have been a little bit better here, I think. And look, you might get halfway, realize nothing's going to happen and go back bot. That's okay. But I think just twiddling your thumbs under tower is just, we're not really getting a ton of value from that. So lovely, keeping it neat and tidy, clearing these waves. Good, good, good. Trying to get that plate. Excellent. No mutual objectives up for now. We've got Rift Herald coming up in about a minute. We've got excellent vision on this bot side, so we don't really feel overly scared here. Just keep popping these waves. We've got our Pike kind of hovering on that bot side river, which is great for us. And again, echoing the sentiment that I've been saying a lot in the previous reviews is, as a Katarina at this stage of the game, it's not really about the plays you make, it's about the plays you don't make. We probably are going to struggle into the Yone now and Bork in the 1v1. We probably can't, do a lot into the 1v2, into the Ziggs, into the Rakan. But you know what? We have very good skirmishing. So at this stage, really what I want to see from the Katarina is, again, shoving and moving and being there for those major fights. And to be honest, we don't mind trading flash for flash here. I think that's completely fine. We play for the wave. Yone rocks up. We burn the Yone's flash R. I think this is great. We trade flash R for flash. That's completely reasonable. Now, we've also got our TP coming up in 40 seconds with Rift Hold coming up on top side. So we could choose to just stay bot and maybe sit tight with our TP. Looks like that's what we're going to be doing here. We're sitting on 1,000 gold. Yone is maybe camping the bush. We don't know. It looks like Yone was. So Katarina actually respected that Yone really quite well. Well done. Good game sense. So Pike's moving. Yone is making the play by himself. Doesn't respect the Pike move. We should theoretically be able to get a bit of a pick here on the back end. Excellent Q from the Pike. Great. Pretty straightforward. Not overly complicated. Very well done. And now we should be able to turn this into a tower here as well. Shove, shove, shove. Rakan doing a very good job of defending. Lovely. And quite honestly, this Pike has played a very good game. And look, we have, to be fair, played well around the Pike. But yeah, Pike's made our life a hell of a lot easier. So let's just take a look at this. So at this stage of the game, we don't have our ultimate. Our jungler is coming out of base. And we're sitting on, about 900 gold here, right? Personally here, I think, after the Rakan comes here, I think we could just take the L and just recall and then sync our reset with our team so we don't have to burn TP to get back on the map. I think making a play here without ultimate, without support, probably not the highest percentage play, a little bit of an overkill play, and we do get a little bit baited in there. Now, this is one of those interesting plays where maybe Katarina never wanted to make a play happen, but maybe it was just Pike. He thought Pike was fed, thought he could make it happen. Or maybe it was just simply the Nico catching them both off guard. It's one of those plays, though, where, we're seeing it is a little bit of an unnecessary play. And it's a fine line between, opportunistic kills, but also keeping it neat and tidy and syncing ourselves up with our jungler. Okay, so we're chilling. We're getting close to well, not really close. We've got our component of our second item. We've got Dragon going to be the next major neutral objective here. Again, Pike still very strong. We've got some good skirmishing. Nico's getting quite strong. The enemy have just very good dueling, but they don't have great team fighting. So as long as we can be cognizant of the Rakan threat and we're there for major fights, we should be okay. We just got to be a little bit careful of the Yone and the 1v1. Yone should be able to shred that Mundo with Bork. So let's take a look at this. So we're redeploying back out on the map here after this death. Let's continue on. Sorry, I went a little bit too far back. And it looks like Varus ends up covering bot here. So we were initially deploying mid, and then it looks like Varus was trying to defend bot, and we're going to defend mid here. So we end up walking, and then we see a fight happen. We see Zach going for a dive. We TP in. Good heads up play, and we're able to kind of clean up a few kills. By the way, this is the benefit of having your TP in mid game for adaptability. Because if you see some sort of play like this, where the enemy are able to go for some kind of crazy dive, Katarina is very, very good at cleaning up. And this is the benefit of TP moving into mid game. It gives you a little bit more flexibility with how you can play the map, comparatively to the skirmishing strength of the Ignite itself. So nice little play, complementing our Varus. And we should theoretically be able to turn this into a tower. We end up basing so we don't share XP. And it looks like we tried to go top to swap the lane assignments to cover the tier 2 here because Mundo can't really deal with this guy. We don't have TP, so we've got to be quite careful here. Udyr is doing a very good job of just making this guy's life miserable. Excellent, good cleanup. And I just want to highlight, this is actually very, very good macro, by the way. A lot of Katarinas would have stayed here to try and share XP and share the gold here. But Katarina realized, you know what? There's a play happening on top side. They're sitting on a decent amount of gold anyway. I'm not needed just for tempo. If I get back out on top and, maybe Udyr dies, at least then I'll be able to defend the tier 2, and then I can, prevent Yone from seeking the tier 2 and look for a shove and move later on. Katarina still has enough time to shove out top and be here for this dragon play anyway. So this was a win-win scenario. If the play got extended, great, we can get the kill. But if nothing happened and maybe Udyr backed off, we needed to cover top anyway because Mundo was dead, and then we can get to defend our tier 2. So just very good awareness of where to be on the map. And that gives us a lot more, again, the ability to shove out these waves, off the back end where Yone is dead. So it looks like we're maybe not contesting the dragon. Looks like we're just making the trade here. Rifting topside, really good macro play from the Udyr. I love this. Very, very sophisticated. If we didn't have Rift Herald, I probably would have liked to see them rotate down and maybe play for the dragon. But again, because we have Rift Herald, we don't need to overcommit for the dragon. We can just leverage our Rift and make the trade and get the tier 2, right? We're completely fine with that. We don't need to win this game through dragons. We can win it through just getting a shit ton of gold and winning skirmishes. And we have a really good skirmishing comp. So really nice. Good. Keep on going. At least get the Rift hit off. We do lose the dragon, but we end up getting a tier 2 and a tier 3, which is incredible. And look at that. We're now on 2k gold just off that whole sequence. That 2.2, basically 2.2k gold. Okay, so we try to stand our ground here. Let's just quickly take a look at the execution here. So Yone is trying to prevent us from getting the tower. We shampoo over the Q3, use our R to create a little bit of space here. And even if we don't kill, we force the Yone to back off, and then we can just disengage. Really, really good. Get all the way back so we don't go for a greedy recall. Excellent. Yeah, and at this stage now, between the Udyr and us, we're at 2 items. We've got 2 items on Varus. We've just got way, way stronger skirmishing. This Udyr is a raid boss at this stage. As long as we don't force anything, we're going to be completely fine. Now, at this stage, we've got no TP. Atakan is the next major neutral objective, so we're on the right side of the map here. And this is where we've got to be careful. Our Udyr is on the other side of the map. This is where we're quite isolated. Amazing play from the Rakan. This is a really good play from Rakan. Rakan knows that Yone is their only chance. He can't make plays around the Ziggs. And, this is just a really great play. I actually don't blame Katarina for going for the trade here. It's hard to know that the Rakan is going to be hovering here, but, we're in Challenger here, and the supports are very sophisticated. They know where you're going to be directing your attention. If you're Rakan, you're thinking, well, I can't kill the Mundo. Mundo's kind of, in the side lane a raid boss. It's hard to make a play around mid here because the enemy have a lot of control. Katarina's very vulnerable. I have a lot of threat into the Katarina. Boom, and they're able to make that play. So I don't blame Katarina for making this decision. I think a lot of fantastic Katarina players would die to this. Props to the Rakan. That's an incredibly impressive play. Okay, and we end up losing the tier 2 as well. Pretty nasty. Okay, we might be able to get a pick though. Really good. Looks like the Yone just trades life for the tier 2. Our team is winning fights on the other side of the map. We do not have TP, so we might as well just shove this wave all the way out. Really, really good. Shove. No compensating, no running around the map like a headless chicken. Farm. Excellent. Shove out mid. Hopefully we do not desync ourselves with the team. Our team is coming back out on the map, and this is where we ideally want that adaptability around Atakan. We do have TP though, so we'll see if we use TP to get back on the map here. We're sitting on 1,600 gold. Get our base stopped. Not ideal. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I fully agree with that. I guess the benefit is that you now get the straight up Seekers, which is a pretty important component for Katarina. So I guess I can understand. If that was the intention, your intention was to literally specifically get the Seekers, I respect it. If it was, you're just kind of, mindlessly clearing waves and then you just feel like, oh shit, I can get Seekers, then obviously that's a problem. But again, we're in Challenger here. This guy probably highly likely, had the intention to stay for the Seekers. And again, worst case scenario, if something were to happen on top side, we've got that TP for adaptability anyway, so not really the end of the world here. So we are going to struggle in the 1v1 now that Yone has that second item. But we can just minimize. Yone can't kill us. If we just sit here and clear waves with our Q, we can just be here for those potential plays on top side. So this will be interesting to see how it pans out. Yone is highly likely going to be stacking up Q off the Gromp. We have our Seekers, though, so we can minimize. We see our team posturing very aggressively on that top side of the map here. Our team is doing a very good job of winning, so we don't need to overcomplicate. Looks like the play is basically already over, so there's not really anything for us to do here. We just got to chill. We're trying to find the Yone. Doesn't look like Yone's making the play, so our team's just winning, and we just got to chill to keep defending the towers. Don't give Yone an option. And I love how Katarina is not trying to do anything fancy. We're just keeping it simple, just minimizing. To be honest, I don't even like this play. I don't really know what Katarina was doing. It looks like maybe she was bored, but she ends up making it work. Wow, she really shot me out. Let's take a look at this. I just didn't think we'd be able to win this through the shield bow. So what am I missing here? So Q, yeah, that's fine. Kite back, EWR. Yeah, it's the Zhonya's. It was the Zhonya's. The Seekers ended up working really, really well here because we were able to wait out the shield or the shield bow and the W. So take a look at this. So we get the chunk, boom, we are, right? Now the shield bow gets procced, but then what happens is because we Zhonya's, the shield bow now runs out, we can flash the R, and now we can win the trade on the back end. Really, really well played. I mean, I wonder if it's very, very hard to time the R here as a Yone for the Zhonya's. Off the Zhonya's, there's basically always a way that Katarina can flash that. Yeah, so well played to the Katarina. I mean, do I think that this is an overly necessary play from a macro perspective? I would say no. You're going to win the game anyway. But again, maybe they were feeling quite confident. Maybe they were a little bit bored. I don't know. Or they just felt confident in the skill check. But yeah, either way, well played. I mean, and that was a very, very well-timed Zhonya's and obviously knew their limits and how the Zhonya's interacted with the shield bow. Yeah, and now at this stage, it looks like the game's relatively straightforward. Everyone's very fed, and there's not really too much to look at here. We'll take a look at maybe the last fight, see if there's anything worth noting here. So it looks like we're just going for the final siege. We go for a bit of an ARAM. Again, not overly complicated, just fighting off our Varus here. We've got Mundo and Udia creating a lot of space. Next target, pretty straightforward, not overly hard. Clean up crew, lovely. So, okay, so it's interesting because this is something I do see a lot in my Katarina reviews, that notice how there's not really many fancy, crazy mechanics. If you're playing a good game of Katarina, you should be playing it according to your team. You should be hyper aware of key threats. You shouldn't really need to do anything fancy. And this was honestly a relatively poised game of Katarina. The only thing that I was a little bit iffy on was that maybe 1v1 on the Yone on the bot side. Outside of that, I think we did a pretty good job of playing around our Pike. I think our mid-game macro was very intentional. We made a lot of effort to make sure we're fixing lane assignments. We were holding our TP very opportunistically. And you can tell we were always thinking about the next major neutral objective and resetting intentionally on those key spikes and playing off our key spikes very cleanly. I would say my only criticism is that there was some reset problems in that early lane. I think maybe they were a little bit greedy with some of those resets. But outside of that, and honestly, a pretty darn well-played game of Katarina. Obviously not the hardest game with the amount of pressure they had from the Pike, but again, some very good opportunistic plays. So just comparing it to the Emerald and the Bronze one, I guess major takeaways, big picture. In bronze, we definitely saw, making too many plays by ourselves. We were not contemplating our teammates' location. We were going in and trying to be the hero and giving bounties. We saw both in the Bronze and Emerald review a lack of matchup understanding and nuance in terms of the technicalities of how the kits interacted. Whereas in this VOD, we saw Katarina have a lot more of a sophisticated understanding about how the kit interacted with Yone's kit and all the other kits around it. And it really showed in the quality of the fighting, the trading, and the skirmishing. And we also saw, I would say, some unsophisticated threat assessment in the Emerald and the Bronze review, whereas this one, the threat assessment was a lot more impressive and a lot more intentional, which makes sense. Obviously, you wouldn't get to challenge with unsophisticated threat assessment. So if you have any other questions about this one, let me know. Very interesting. It's the first time reviewing, a proper Bronze Katarina, which was a bit of fun. If you have any other questions, let me know, and I'll see you for another video soon. Cheers.